So after the rains, this is what the Bengaluru roads look like. Some patchwork has been done. You can see the roads. It is nothing less than an off-road section.
Hello friends, a very good morning and hope you are all doing fine. Actually, a year back, the Bajaj Triumph partnership sprung a big surprise on the entire biking community by launching the twins, the Speed 400 and the Scrambler 400X. Nobody was expecting that kind of a quality at that kind of a price, and frankly it was a market disrupting move by the partnership. In fact, it's no doubt that in a very short while, they have become the second largest manufacturer of the 350 to 400cc motorcycle, and after the Royal Enfields, of course, by a big difference till now. But they have managed to get that kind of popularity in a very short while. That's what I mean to say. And this year, in fact, a month back, they sprung another surprise, and when everybody was expecting a different iteration of the 400cc engine, probably in an adventure format or in a cafe racer format, I think they came up with something that was quite unexpected. They came up with the Triumph T4, and I had the opportunity to ride the T4 yesterday. In fact, I was very interested about the kind of engine configuration it had. It was apparently it is a downgrade from the Speed 400, and so I was quite interested to know what kind of thought the Bajaj Triumph partnership had in mind when they launched this motorcycle, because they downgraded the engine, reduced the power, etc., etc. So let me share my experience with you of riding the Triumph T4. What a very short while within the city limits. I'm yet to go into the highway and do the high speeds, but that review is going to come sooner. But if you love this kind of reviews that I bring to you, and you would like to take an informed decision by watching my videos, learning from my experience of riding these wonderful machines, do hit the subscribe button and do not forget to give the video a thumbs up if you like it. In fact, after riding the Speed T4, the thought that came to my mind was that is there a room for the Speed 400 to exist right now? And if at all it does, for whom does the Speed 400 belong to, and who should go for the Speed T4? So I'm going to summarize it at the end of the video. Do not forget to watch the entire video and listen to my summary at the end.
Saturday morning once again, and we have the Diwali holidays coming up next week. So today I thought I will take a short journey through the Bajaj Triumph showroom in Whitefield, from where I actually got my Scrambler, because recently there has been an interesting launch, and it is the Triumph T4. So it's all over the internet, you must have seen it. The idea is to take a short test ride in city limits and get an idea as to how it is as a daily commuter. So you know that I ride the Triumph Scrambler, and I'm not going to compare the two. I know they are not comparable. They are made to cater to different segments. One is for occasional off-roading, and one is typically strictly for city commutes. But I have a fair bit of idea about this 400cc engine of Triumph, and I was clear about what I would prefer when I was actually in the Triumph showroom when I bought my Scrambler. I knew that I needed something with greater ground clearance, something that had more suspension travel to give greater comfort in the everyday commute situations of Bangalore, and also the occasional off-roads that I venture into. So there I was quite clear, and also the price difference was not substantial between the Scrambler and the Speed. But now, after the T4 having been launched, I think the equation has changed a little bit. In fact, I'm riding this to get an idea whether it makes sense to have the speed 400 at all or not, or the T4 is good enough by itself to cater to the roadster segment that Triumph is aiming at. And of course the Scrambler has its own pros, and it is a beauty and a very accomplished machine in its own regard. So the idea is to find out if T4 is good enough to satisfy the needs of the city commuter, because to tell you, on my Scrambler also 90% of the time what I do is city commute. I travel to work every day, about 1 kilometers one way in strictly traffic situation, and after the rains the roads are pothole ridden, and I think it's a blessing that I chose to buy the Scrambler. So right now the roads are not good in Bangalore, very bad. After some incessant showers there are potholes everywhere. There is no dearth of potholes, and I'm going to ride the T4 for a while to find out. Of course it will not be as good as the Scrambler, but to find out whether it is good enough to be a first buy as a city commute. So I am about to reach the Bajaj Triumph showroom. I don't see much of traffic on the road, so this is a good day to actually test ride the T4. So when I review the motorcycle, before that I also read a lot of reviews, so I'm usually not the first one to review. Of course I'm not a professional YouTuber, as you know, and I go through a lot of reviews myself, and I have gone through a lot of reviews of people whom I relatively have a higher trust in, and I know what to expect, but let's see, expectations turn into reality or not. Here you are at the Bajaj Triumph showroom. The T4, I'm sure it's available for test ride. A pretty bright red color one. No, yes, it is the Speed T4. I don't see any difference with the Speed 400 actually. Pretty nice looking. In fact, it's a little more jazzy. You can see the tire is probably a section smaller. It's 140 section from what I know. You have the telescopic fronts, but of course with the 4 gaiters, and you don't have the gold anodized front that you have on the Scrambler and Speed 400. What else? You don't have the bar and mirrors that you get on the Speed 400, and what I gather also, it has a organic brake pad and not the sintered brake pad that is available on the Speed, and I have also fitted it on my Scrambler because it has increased the bike. But then this bike probably weighs significantly less than the Scrambler, so I do not know. The organic brake pads might be enough. Yeah, so that's the T4 in front of you. Now let's find out what it is like to ride it in the city. I've got a white and black T4 to test ride, and that's the, let me see the tires. So this is the T4 and this is the Speed 400. Yeah, there is some difference. I think the profile is also thicker, it seems. So this is, let me see what it is. It's 150/70 R17 the speed, and when you look at the T4 it is I think it is 140. Yes, it's a little thinner. So there you go, and everything else is same. I think the weight is also pretty the same. So it's about 175 kilos if I'm not wrong. I'll put it up somewhere here, you can check, but I don't think there is much of difference in the T4 and the Speed. And here you go. So pretty friendly seat height, unlike my Scrambler where you have to literally jump on your motorcycle. Let's see how it sounds. So there is no traction control over here. if you know. So that's the difference. And you don't have the bar end mirrors, you have the traditional mirrors like in the Scrambler. I'm sure this is the Scrambler mirrors only. Ah, very nice. It's got a very bassy note. Let me rev it. Yes, very bassy note, and more bassy than my Scrambler, I can say, from the blacked out exhaust. But such a friendly seat height, you know, amazing. After riding the Scrambler, this feels more like a toy. Let me see how is the pickup, etc. And I'm sure what I've heard is it's quite tractable. Let me see for myself. So currently I'm on the second gear. Let me see, I'm on the first gear, and I'm doing about 2000, less than 2000 RPM. Let me see at what RPM does it idle. So let me get it to neutral. It idles at about 1500 RPM. That's standard. When you put it onto the first gear, very sleek gear shift, not a problem. And 2000 RPM, I'm doing about 20 km per hour. So if I take to the third gear, I am still under 2000 RPM. I'm still doing 20 km per hour. Amazing, isn't it? At third gear you can do 20 km per hour. It's a bump. The suspension is quite well sorted out, I can tell you. It doesn't have the 150 mm travel of the Scrambler. Despite that, I just crossed a bump and no problem at all. Actually, on the go, I don't feel any difference from my Scrambler in terms of acceleration. It's quite peppy. It's down on the bhp. It's 9 bhp down from the Scrambler, 40 versus 31, but it's not perceivable. So it's has a very quick throttle. It doesn't have a electronic throttle, you know, but you won't be able to make it. It's so well sorted, and the suspension is also quite supple. So for Indian road conditions, the kind of roads that we traversed today, you know, the potholes, the undulations, the broken patches, I think this bike can do it comfortably and easily. So if you are anybody who is 5.5, 5'6", etc., less than 5'8", I think it's a very friendly motorcycle to live with. And if you're looking essentially at city commutes and occasionally an highway run, because it's not that you cannot go on the highway on this, you can do highway runs. This does go about, from what I gather, about 137 km per hour is the top speed claimed. Not very different from the speed of the Scrambler, which is about probably 150, 153. They do about 160 on the speedo, 160. People have done even 170, but I'm sure there are speedo errors. But this will, I'm guessing, this will be about 10 to 15 km per hour lower on the top speed. I'm not doing a top speed run today, but I don't have the stretch of road for this. But I'm literally amazed. So this costs in Bangalore 2,97,000. The speed will cost you 30,000 more than this currently, the latest version of the Speed 400. And the Scrambler will cost you 60,000 more. So the Scrambler on road is about 3,26,000, and the speed is upward of almost 3,60,000. So despite that, the differences are not at all perceivable. It doesn't look like a compromise. Yes, there are all of the purists will tell you that upside down fork will give you better control, better maneuverability, etc. But in everyday city riding conditions, it doesn't make an iota of difference, I can tell you. And that's what 90% of us are going to do. So better save your money. Actually, after this, riding this, I'm wondering, is there a position for the Speed? I'll come to the verdict later on when we discuss this over a cup of coffee. But that's a pertinent question. After riding the T4, the Speed T4 and the Scrambler 400. Definitely there is a space for the Scrambler, but the Speed, well, I'm not too sure. Actually like the exhaust note, it's very bassy. You know, it's more bassy than even my Scrambler. And mind you, the Scrambler note is a little more bassy than the Speed. So this is really interesting. So quite compact, it's music to the ears. Below 3 lakh rupees, this is a steal. Now what are the bikes does it compare with? So it compares with probably the Royal Enfield Hunter, or I would say it compares more with the Hunter and probably with the Classics, the Honda Classics and the Highness. It also compares probably with the Duke 250, but the Duke of 250 has a lot of electronics and it has a different riding dynamics. It's a more sporty motorcycle which is meant to be ridden at higher speeds. So that was a short test ride, not bad. I think I've formed my first impressions. Do I prefer this over the Scrambler? No, not at all. I prefer tall motorcycles and better leverage in terms of ground clearance. But is this a good motorcycle to buy? Yes. For most of the people, 80% of the people who are looking for a Triumph at this, the Triumph 400cc engine, this will probably suit your purpose. I do not know where the Speed 400 sits, the current Speed 400 at that price point, but this will serve the purpose of most of the people. Let's see how the sales charts actually evolve, whether this eats into the Speed 400 sales or vice versa, and what are the other motorcycle in whose sales this bike is going to eat. I'm guessing it should be the Hunter. It's one of the top selling motorcycles from Royal Enfield, from RE, and it's quite attractive looking also. The same classic Triumph looks, good amount of fit and finish, no compromise there absolutely. So yes, let's discuss this at length. Our T4, Speed T4.
So now that you have seen and heard about my experience of riding the Speed T4, let me tell you what I feel. To be very honest, I think you really do not need the Speed 400 right now, because on one end of the spectrum you have the Speed T4, which has got a better bottom end grunt, which has got a better tractability, which runs smoother actually till 100-120 than the Speed 400. Of course, it does a little bit of lower top speed. I have not tested the top speed, but the company claims it's about 135 km per hour, while the Speed 400 is about 145. But how many times do you buy a motorcycle in this segment to rev it to its limits and test the top speed? If that is not the case, I think most of us, 90% of you, will be better off with the Speed T4 and will really not miss the Speed 400. Of course, the advantage you get is you pay 30,000 rupees less, and that's a significant amount. You can spend that money to accessorize your motorcycle, fit a top box, crash bars, etc. Outslides, whatever you want to. In fact, if you look at the Scrambler 400, that's on the other end of the spectrum. Really there is no comparison between the Speed T4 and the Scrambler 400, because that's an off-roading machine that will help you to do highway duties as well as hit that off-road sections from time to time. Anyways, I'm a off-road enthusiast, so I like machines that give you some kind of an off-road ability. So that's my preference. But if your preference and your riding style is 90% of the time within city limits, if you want to use it for office commutes, daily commutes, and hit that occasional highway stretch, I think you are very well off with the Speed T4, and you will save that crucial bucks to accessorize your motorcycle. That's my opinion. I think people will have different kind of opinions. Of course, there is a section of people who would like the Speed 400, who are not so much, into city riding, who would prefer to hit the highway more often, and who have a problem with the height. They are about 5'6", 5'7", or below, and they can do either with the speed 400 or the speed T4, and they would prefer to rev their bikes a little higher because they hit the highways more often for them, probably. But that's a very small niche and a very small segment. For them, I would recommend the speed 400. But let's see, time will tell which does better in the long run, the speed T4 or the speed 400, and what actually catches the fancy of the population at large.